We've talked a lot on this program and on Coin 6 News about Portland Ballot Measure 26228. It would radically change Portland city government. The main changes: a city administrator to oversee city bureaus instead of commissioners as it is now. That city manager would work directly with the mayor. There would be 4 geographic districts in the city, with 3 members elected to each district, creating 12 city commissioners instead of the current 5. And they would be elected by ranked choice voting, which we'll talk more about. And while most voters agree that the current commission-style form of government isn't working, there are those who say this proposed plan is not the right plan. Well, among those is current Portland City Commissioner Mingus Mapps, who is offering his own plan for changing Portland city government. Commissioner Mapps, welcome to Eye on Northwest Politics.
Thanks, Ken.
Now, before we get into charter reform, let's talk about the passage of the mayor's homeless plan, which happened on Thursday. Why did you vote for it?
Frankly, I've been on council for 2 years now, and this has to be the most ambitious and innovative effort I've seen so far to help the people who are currently sleeping in tents on our streets, secure housing. This is incredibly ambitious. I think it'll make a big difference. I'm excited to embrace these ideas, and I'm excited to execute them too.
Specifically, what do you like about it?
Oh, we do a couple of amazing and I think really important things. We've committed to what the mayor has described as a moonshot in terms of building new affordable housing. So the council has committed itself to building 20,000 units of new affordable housing within the next 10 years. We're also going to have a new focus on trying to connect houseless folks to employment opportunities. We're doing this because we know one of the most effective ways to get someone off the street is to connect them to a family wage job. So we're going to be making important progress there. Certainly the most controversial piece of this proposal has been, I think, also the most misunderstood piece of this plan. And that does this. Number one, it basically expands the safe rest villages that Commissioner Ryan has pioneered over the past year and a half or so. We have a handful of those set up. We'll continue to expand that program, and we'll not only have more safe rest villages, we'll probably also experiment with having them larger. So that, I think, is an important step. And as we build out our alternative shelter opportunities, one of the things that we'll also move towards is, enforcing our camping ban, which has been on the books for a long, long time, since I believe 2016. The city of Portland, for various reasons, has chosen not to enforce that. As we expand our shelter options, one of the things that we need to do is recommit ourselves to making sure that our public spaces are clean and safe. And the final piece of this proposal, which I think is really important to get at, and I think has received the least of attention of all these ideas, is a new diversion program. One of the reasons a lot of folks are stuck on the streets is because they have criminal records for relatively minor things. And we're going to stand up a program that helps houseless people resolve their outstanding warrants and other minor legal issues that are preventing them from accessing jobs and accessing employment opportunities.
Who's going to pay for all this?
Well, we're going to work with our intergovernmental partners. I will tell you, this is a heavy lift. It's going to require help from the federal government, the state government, Metro, the county, and the city. I can certainly imagine also that there'll be room for the private sector here too. We are already having discussions with our partners about how we can work together to serve our houseless communities better.
Is the 18-month rollout too long a time frame for an emergency that's happening right now?
Yes, no doubt. We need to move faster. The people are sleeping on the streets right now as we have torrential rains happening. It can't come soon enough for folks who are, in wheelchairs and been trapped in their homes for the past 2 years because the sidewalks are blocked. Waiting 18 months is far too long. I'm going to do everything in my power to move more quickly than 18 months, but I also embrace this opportunity now for us to at least to start to move forward.
Let's talk charter reform now. What are your main objections to the charter reform measure that's going to be on the ballot on Tuesday?
Well, first, I think it's important to recognize that everyone agrees that our current charter is broken and it's time for change. There's no debate about that. There's something good in this proposal that's on the ballot right now, and that's the proposal to hire a city manager. We need to do that. There are a couple of ideas that are baked into this proposal, which are also deeply problematic. And frankly, I'm going to vote no on this one because they're so problematic. And the difficult and troubling pieces about this are the mechanisms that this ballot proposal uses to elect new members of city council. I think as your intro showed, what they're suggesting doing is to use multi-member districts combined with ranked choice voting to elect your next city council. What that will basically mean is that you lower the threshold for winning a seat on council. Right now, to win a seat on council, you need 50% of the vote plus one. Right now, with the proposal on the ballot, they would lower that to 25% of the vote plus one. There are a couple of problematic things about that. First, by lowering the threshold to 25% of the vote plus one, it means an incumbent will never get defeated. I went back recently and took a look at election results from the last 50 or 60 years, and I'm not sure if there's been any incumbent, even incumbents who have lost, who have received less than 25% of the vote. The other problematic thing about this is that if you lower the threshold for winning a seat on council to 25% of the vote plus one, it will also inevitably mean that you're going to elect a lot of folks who would never be able to attract a majority support from the people of Portland. I think we really run the risk of electing folks who don't represent our city particularly well. And then once they get into those seats, we're not going to be able to unseat them again.
What's your alternative?
Well, I'll tell you, if charter reform fails on election day before the end of next week, I will do a press conference and announce my plans to bring an ordinance to council, which will direct council to send an alternative charter proposal to the people of Portland for the May 2023 ballot. I believe that we can get that done. I'm going to ask council to vote on this before the end of January. And my baseline proposal that I'll be proposing to the people of Portland and my colleagues on council is this. Let's hire a city manager. Let's expand the size of council from 4 people to 7 people, and let's elect them through neighborhood-based elections. So we'll divide the city basically into 7 different quadrants, which represent neighborhood clusters, elect them the way we've been electing people to council or Congress or, forever. This is the way American politics has been designed forever. I think it's intuitive. We know it will work, and that will allow us to move forward with the important work of actually making local government work better again.
We've had the Charter Commission's Melanie Billings-Young on this program before, and she described this proposal as a 3-legged stool. In other words, the elements don't work unless they are implemented together. So how do you respond to that?
The problem with this is I think the proposal won't work even if you embrace all 3 of them at once. I think you're going to wind up with a dysfunctional council, which is at war with itself, and frankly, also probably likely at war with the mayor. What Portland really needs to do now is focus in on good government, more efficient government. That's why the most important thing that we can do right now is to hire a city manager. And frankly, I think we should also expand the size of council. We've had 4 people on council for the last 100 years, and we've increased in size by about 5-fold. So moving from 4 people to 7, I think makes a lot of sense. I think electing them through neighborhood-based elections makes a lot of sense. I think on the other hand, I think electing members of council through multi-member districts it's not even ranked choice voting. What they're really proposing here is a single transferable vote system. A multi-member districts welded onto a single transferable vote system as a form of government which doesn't exist anywhere in America. I would argue it doesn't exist anywhere on the planet. We don't know how this works. And frankly, it's not clear what problem this complicated machinery is trying to solve. The problems that Portland fails at today are problems which require our different bureaus to work together. If we struggle with homelessness or getting permits out at a time, it's usually because we need to get a couple of different city bureaus to coordinate. Our system of government is designed to prevent our bureaus from coordinating. We can solve that by hiring a city administrator. These complicated electoral contortions that are currently on the ballot seem kind of irrelevant and experimental. It's not clear to me what problems they solve, and certainly I think I've outlined some of the problems they will create.
Portland City Commissioner Mingus Mapps, thanks for stopping by Eye on Northwest Politics.
Thank you.
We have a lot more on charter reform on coin.com, both sides of this issue, and you can see my previous interviews on the subject, including with supporters of Measure 26228, by clicking on the Eye on Northwest Politics tab.